think a lot of agents are doing wrong on social media today?
Boring. We're probably not the greatest at answering this question because we don't see a lot of other real estate agent content.
Hey there, it's Tamany Hall, owner of The Simple Touches, and this is Simplifying Social Media. Get ready to navigate the dynamic world of real estate in the online realm. Join me as I chat with industry leaders who spill the beans on insights, strategies, and actionable tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just dipping your toes, we're turning followers into deals, step by step. Make sure that subscribe button gets some love and grab your notepad. We're diving right in. Welcome back to another episode of Simplifying Social Media. I'm Tamany, owner of The Simple Touches, and today we are here with one half of North Valley Group Real Estate. We have Spencer. Which one?
Yep,
Spencer.
that's me right here.
And
Yep.
Cody. Can you tell me, before we kind of dive in, a little bit about the dynamic of your real estate team?
So family-owned business. Actually, Kurt, our father, you see in some of the videos that we do, he's been doing it the longest, 7 years or so. And then about 3 to 4 years ago, Cody and I jumped on board. And then shortly after that, Ryan jumped on board. So just family working together, creating content and doing real estate. So.
And all four of you are licensed agents, correct?
We are, Ryan doesn't really do any licensed activity, but we're all licensed.
He does a lot of the video editing.
So for context, can you tell us where you are in your typical production, and then we'll dive into questions.
We're in Northern California, north of Sacramento, about an hour and a half in Chico.
Wait, where? Oh, in Chico. Stop. I'm from Sacramento.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're super close.
Yeah, right.
No, I don't live there anymore, but I'm from there. And then your typical production annually.
I think last year, somewhere around 12 million, 14 million.
Probably, yeah, I think 14, closer
Somewhere in there.
13 to 14 million. We had to look at the numbers again. I feel like I knew it 6 months ago.
Let me ask it a different way. So about how many deals do you do in a month?
In a month, probably in the neighborhood of 2 to 5, depending on the month and depending on the type of deal. So we do quite a few vacant lot deals that don't make a lot of money, but we had the town of Paradise near us that kind of burnt down in 2018. And so there's a lot of people that are wanting to invest or move back up on the ridge. So we do a handful of those, and then we do houses as well. So houses are where most of the money's at. And right now, it feels a little slow right now, but we're probably in the neighborhood of 1 to 2 a month.
Yeah, the interest rates really aren't helping out anybody.
So, okay, I scrolled all the way back. You guys started your accounts in like 2020, 2021, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
You started with house tours, it looked like.
Yeah, 2021, I think, is when we started with the house tours. I know the account goes back even further because when we came on, it was actually just Kurt's account, Facebook and on Instagram. I think a lot of that stuff was just some, it might have been just for pictures, whatever he was doing at the time.
So, and now you're all the way to, just a crazy following and all the things that you guys are doing. So if you had to kind of talk about it in stages from starting it out to where you're at now, how would you categorize those stages when it comes to social media marketing?
I think we're still in the first stage of we don't really know what we're doing. We're just having fun.
At first, when we started, we're like, okay, we understand that social media everybody's on it, right? Everybody uses it in one way or form or another: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So we kind of trying to figure out which ones we wanted to run with, which platforms we wanted to run with. And our primary beginning, it was basically like everything was real estate content. Completely real. Like for the most part, it was 100% real estate related. Like you said, the house tours, we also did, if we had anything that we thought was funny, we would take trending audios and sounds and just find a way to relate it to real estate. But we kind of branched out with just some videos here and there, and those ones started popping off. Again, because they're way more relatable to people. So those started popping off, and we're like, you know what? We should probably incorporate much more of that and less of the real estate stuff, and we can just kind of like mix in the real estate every once in a while. Stages, hard to explain, but basically it started off with mostly real estate, and then it shifted to like kind of middle. And then I would say now our focus is a lot less real estate and much more just like growing the platforms and mixing in a little bit of real estate kind of as we go, just to remind people that, hey, this is what we do as well. We can help you on that front.
Yes, we found that a lot of the real estate content that we saw being produced is super boring and nobody cares about it until they want to buy a house.
Yeah.
When they want to buy a house, all of a sudden it's useful. But until then, it's like nobody really cares except for other real estate agents. They find it entertaining.
And maybe some investors,
Maybe
some investors, but like if your bread and butter is residential real estate, a lot of people are like regular residents are, mothers, fathers. They're like, they want things that they can relate to, and real estate is not one of those things for the most part, unless they're really thinking about it. So
our approach was just to stay top of mind and to make stuff that they would see and hopefully be reminded that, like, hey, those guys are real estate agents. And that's kind of what we started off in the beginning. And like you said, we're kind of now where we have a really good following, but a lot of them aren't local. And we're kind of in the process of figuring out how to monetize that through real estate, like trying to set up a good referral network so that we can, in front of the people that we have looking at us, be able to say, hey, if you're interested in buying or selling real estate, like we can connect you with an agent and you can support our business and we can help you get connected with a stellar agent. So we're kind of in the process of that. I think the stage we want to be in is just overwhelmed with revenue, and we're not quite at that stage yet, but we're working on getting there.
I love in your TikTok bio, it's like, P.S. we're realtors. I love that.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, because what I feel like happened just kind of from scanning your profile is you started out doing the things, you were probably ahead of the game as far as making these house tour reels and stuff a couple years ago, because now everyone's doing that. But you've kind of like built this brand of these like super relatable millennials and their dad, and it's just so fun to watch. And I bet, correct me if I'm wrong, but I bet you're having way more fun now with your videos than you did back then.
I would say that's true. Yeah, doing house tours was like, I don't know, it was entertaining because you were getting out of the office and you're doing something. But doing the videos we do now is much more fun. Yeah, it's also much more stressful in some ways. I feel like Ryan and Spencer feel constantly trying to come up with something that's creative and entertaining. I think is more challenging in some ways than what we were doing before.
It's hard to explain, but as like we've hit certain marks, we're like, oh, we need to keep doing that or above that. And so like there's an added layer of stress. But along with it, a lot of the videos, like yesterday, I don't know, we spent an hour and a half like messing around trying to figure out this one that we'll put out today, which is just another dance video. So it's like we're dancing as people are walking by our office. And it's fun. It is fun. There's a lot of things that we get to do that are quite enjoyable. But there is some, of course, just with anything, if you're trying to do something consistently and grow something, there's a layer of stress as well.
So who's the mastermind? Is it all Ryan?
It's this guy right here.
No, it's I would say Ryan and I do a lot of the idea generation. I don't know what the percentage would be, but it's pretty high. I
don't keep track.
But like, so, but to kind of like, it's not like we do a lot of the idea stuff, and we do a lot of like I think we can visualize things a little bit differently. We're a little more on the creative side. And so we have these ideas in our heads, and then I think they struggle. Cody and Kurt are like, what are you guys talking about? So we're always trying to be like, okay, this is the vision that we have. Cody, Kurt are handling a lot more of the real estate stuff, which is why you have one of both of us here. It's because I do a little more of the social media stuff. Cody does more of the real estate. So it's kind of a balance as a group, like who runs with what, because everybody has things that they're better with and things that they're not. So kind of just work towards people's strengths. So on the social media stuff, probably for sure Ryan and I. And then on the real estate stuff, Cody and Kurt.
Do you keep all the editing and everything in-house, or you guys outsource it?
Ryan, again, this is why Ryan doesn't do lots of real estate, is because if we create a video, he'll be doing the editing and doing, like, if you look at our thumbnail, basically, thumbnails, whatever you want to call them on TikTok, like the cover
thumbnails
photo.
Are great. Your thumbnails are awesome.
Yeah. So he does all the editing on those. So I can handle some more real estate, while for him, I think it's a bit much because he's just kind of doing a lot of the editing and stuff. So
our editing is very not sophisticated. We shoot everything on our phones, and we edit everything on apps in our phones and then post from our phones. So pretty simple. It works. Anybody who's thinking to get into real estate or into social media world, it's like you can do it 100% with the phone and be very successful with it. Like there's just a couple apps and you can do everything that we're doing. We'd like to upgrade to nicer camera equipment at some point, but it also seems kind of like a little more burdensome to transfer files from the card to the computer. It also seems not a high priority because we're like, look at all the success that we're having with basically the stuff that we're using.
So off the top of your head, what are some of the apps that you use?
Splice is the main one we use for editing. We've also used one called Video Leap, but Splice is kind of the main one. Ryan uses Canva quite a bit for all of our cover thumbnails. Honestly, those three apps do majority. We do quite a bit of editing as well in the TikTok app, just because they have a lot of filters and things, or if there's a trending thing that's going on, we'll use that inside of the app. So probably those four apps are our most go-to.
Talk to me about ROI as far as getting them off the platform and converting them to a deal. What does that look like? How does it happen?
It's terrible. We don't have good numbers, and we don't have a good system. So we've had transactions that have come from social media, some here locally, and we've had some people reach out with referrals. But as far as ROI is a really difficult thing to calculate with considering how much time we're putting into making videos. So not everybody has the amount of time, because we are pooling together 4 people's worth of time, and we're juggling, like, we're not like super busy with real estate. Doing 1 or 2 deals a month isn't like a crazy amount. And so we have the time to put into making these videos, and trying to quantify that in terms of like, okay, how much time are we investing, and then how much return are we getting? It's difficult to measure, and if we had to measure it, I'm sure it would not look good. But we are betting on the long-term return as being pretty high. The reach that we've gotten in terms of just people that are seeing our stuff is high enough that we're sure that we'll be able to turn that into revenue at some point. Like we kind of mentioned earlier, building out that referral network and just being able to connect people is one way that we should be able to do it. Another thing that I don't know if you have followed, I think it's Zach Faust Lofty. We've connected with him, and he's pretty good in terms of like understanding the business, and he's doing the social media stuff. We understand that we could probably repurpose a lot of the videos we've had do well as advertisements, and then try to channel that into getting leads. We just haven't actually done it yet. So
it's hard because everything that we've done has been organic. So it's really just our time, right? We're not putting money into the platforms, our time into the platform. So again, looking at the ROI.
So technically our ROI is infinite because we haven't put any money in. But if you measure the value of our time, we put a lot of time in.
But again, in terms of ROI, we are, again, banking on the future. Like, what does the future hold, and what can we do? And we're working on, like Cody had mentioned earlier, we're working on getting some back-end things figured out so that we can increase the amount of referrals that we're doing. But we really want to have the systems well in place before we kind of really push them. Everybody talks about being in front of your sphere of influence or reminding your sphere of influence. This has absolutely helped in so many ways, because we come up in conversations when we're not even in the room. We know people are talking about our videos, they're sharing our videos, our friends are, they're sharing them with their friends. So it's been cool to see, going into the community and being recognized by people that we don't know. It's been cool to connect with people on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all saying like, hey, I live here or there, in the community. They don't know us, but they love our stuff. It's cool. It's just getting in front of so many people and staying top of mind in front of your sphere has been huge for us in terms of, and again, it's hard because it's like they're still friends or of people that we have met in the past. It's like, is social media directly responsible for the lead, or is it also our connection there? So
you're preaching to the choir. I dove into social media services specifically this year, and that's one of the hard things is everyone asks, what's the ROI? What's the ROI? And I'm like, it's not going to be someone who'd be like, I saw this video, I'm pre-approved, please help me. Like, it doesn't work that way. And you were totally reading my mind. That was my question as far as like, what has changed since your reach has grown. But let's flip that around and say, what was the turning point of your social media videos?
So our first goal originally, I think, was to get to 1,000 followers. That was on Instagram. We were like, if we can get to 1,000 followers, we're going to be so cool, because there's only like 2 agents in town that have more than that. And then it was like, okay, if we can get to 4,000, nobody has more than that. And so we had Instagram and TikTok, and we had a video kind of go off on TikTok, and we got all of a sudden some followers, and we were like, oh, like we have 10,000 followers on TikTok. And then that was over the span of maybe like 6 months. We got from the 10,000 up to, I don't know, it started climbing pretty quick. And then as we got to where we had following on both, we're like, hey, we have a significant number of followers on both platforms. That's when it kind of turned into something where we're like, okay, maybe we can make revenue on these followers, not necessarily through real estate alone, but also like, what if we just do brands, partnerships, or sponsorships? At that point, we were like, hey, we can see this going somewhere with or without real estate.
I don't know if you going back and looking at our stuff, we made a video that is like U2, and it was like, for real estate, it was basically like, hey, you give them the keys and you're like, enjoy your new home, and they say U2.
Just imagine the places we could go if we were together. Just imagine true love forever. Dream it, think it, see it, do it. Dream it, think it, see it, do it.
That was our first video that like popped off, and it got like, I don't know, I want to say like 13 million on TikTok. And we instantly like saw a huge jump in followers on TikTok and Instagram. We saw like quite a bit. And so we're like, well, that was so easy. It took us like 30 minutes to recreate. Like it took us 30 minutes to create that video. Like it didn't take us long at all. Like we could redo that over and over and over again, with just different ideas. I would say if you go back and look at our stuff, it was like January of 2022. So last year was when we like decided to be strategic about the amount of time that we put into our content and how many days. I think we started off January of 2022 basically saying, okay, 3 days a week, or we're going to do 3 videos a week, and we're going to try to make them like good quality videos. And we're much more strategic. And then as we had more videos pop off, we decided to up that to 5 to 7 days a week. It's just depending. I'd say we're probably about 5 days a week is our average right now.
What tips or advice would you give to an agent or a team who are kind of in that home tour realm and they're struggling to come up with original content?
The 2 things I would say would be the practice of just doing it, like just getting it out and creating content is the best way to get better at it. So you don't have to post everything, but just create stuff. And the second thing I would say is if you're bored watching it, you're probably not going to impress anybody else. So when you're consuming content, because everybody has a habit, I think, of scrolling a little bit, pay attention to what things you find entertaining or funny or that pull you in. Pay attention to that, write it down. And then when you're going to look at content, just look at that stuff and see what things you can take from that and implement. If you're focused on being very niche in real estate, you probably won't go as viral. But if you can make your content engaging, when somebody does hit your page, they're going to know exactly what you're about, and they're going to, the know, like, and trust phase will happen a lot more quickly if they see you, you're engaging, and they're like, oh, this person knows what she's talking about, and they're gonna know where to go when they want advice on that. It doesn't mean that they're always gonna care about watching real estate stuff, but when they do care, you'll probably show up. And then I think the other thing is if you do make some videos that have nothing to do with real estate, at least it can be entertaining and show some other things.
But I also just adding 2 of my own. One is if you're creating content, it helps us quite a bit to find other creators that you find. So they don't have to be real estate agents, right? They could be creators that are creating any other type of content. But finding people that you enjoy, that you find that are funny, or it depends on what type of content you're into. If you're much more into the educational, find people that are doing it in different spaces, in different spaces, and then you can just twist it. Take that content and twist it and give it your own twist. So that's one thing that we do quite a bit. We just find other people's videos. We're like, okay, how can we twist this and make it, relate to us, or the things the kind of the content that we put out. So finding other creators, even if it's outside of the real estate world. The other thing I would say is pretty much all the time when we're creating content, we always try to, as a real estate agent, you kind of get stuck in this idea of like, okay, well, I'm going to create content that has, that's completely solely related to real estate. But we always try to think of like, what would people relate to the most? Like everybody has brothers, everybody has sisters. If you look at the video we posted yesterday, it was sibling humor. If you're trying to get to a broader audience, try to think broad, like what can someone relate to? That's not just real estate. Like I said, if you want to be more niche, you can do that. You'll probably just have a smaller following, but a much more tight-knit, loyal community. But if you're thinking broad, think what things can people relate to? What things, are, relatable, basically.
I think that there's a lot of overlap between writers and content creators. So a lot of things I've read about writing, they talk about just doing it every day and just writing. And it doesn't matter if it's trash, just write. Just write for a certain amount of time every day and get into the habit of doing that. And I think it's the same thing with content. If you can get into the habit of just make something, even if it's garbage, you don't have to use it. Just make it, go through the process, get it out. And then once you have 10 videos, you can look at one and say, okay, maybe this one actually is worth keeping and posting. And keep going through that process. It gets refined. Right, I think
it's true. If you look at our content, you'll see that we had a lot of videos in the beginning that were trash.
Yeah, we just posted. They
weren't that good. We just posted stuff. You have to just kind of get the practice. You got to get. The only way to get better is by doing it. And so if you go back, we do occasionally go back and look at our stuff, and we're like, wow, like we have grown a lot. I'm sure as you went back and looked at it, you've probably seen that.
I was asking, everyone's first video stuff. Like it's part of the process.
It's part of the process. Yeah.
Sometimes I look at ones from last week and think, jeez.
So I have clients who, maybe they've heard the 80-20, 80 business, 20 personal, blah, blah, blah. but they're scared to post about their personal life on their business page. What advice or what would you tell someone who's a little bit nervous to talk about themselves?
So if the fear is from not wanting like creepers, just don't share anything too personal. Like don't put your home address on there. Just share like some of the activities that you might be doing. If it is a fear of like people not being interested, I again would go back to the don't post things that are boring to you. Like if you see somebody post, and it doesn't have to be that exciting to keep people engaged. I watch stories all the time where people are just showing what they're doing. But if you're watching it and you keep watching it, then somebody would probably watch you do the same thing. If you watch it and you're like, skip, then don't do that. Because other people will probably skip it. So that's what I'd say.
I would also just add to that is if you're a real estate agent, you're helping people buy and sell homes for sure. But really what you're selling is yourself. People need to get to know you. And the only way they're going to get to know you is if you a little bit let them in. And you got to kind of do that through social media. And it's hard in the beginning, but people get to know our personalities through our content. They get to know our family through our content. They get to know, and again, don't share the things that are private, but they get to know so much about you. So basically by the time they are ready to buy and sell, because you're not going to force them to do that, they're going to do it on their own time. They already feel like they know you, they trust you, and they are more likely to use you because you are opening up. If the stuff that you're putting up is very non-personable and it's just much more business, it's going to be harder for them to feel trusted and feel like they want to use you. So,
and I think another benefit to looking at content, and if you're like, oh, I like this and I'm watching it, or oh, skip this, what's going to happen is because everybody's different, not everybody has that same opinion. But what you'll find is as you produce the things that you like, you will attract people that are interested in the same things. So you kind of find your tribe as you're making content. You're like, oh, I like watching this and I don't like watching this. And that's the kind of stuff you produce. More of those like-minded people will come to you. And people that look at your stuff and they're like, I don't like this. You probably don't want to work with them anyway. You're not connecting on a certain level. So yeah basically the short answer to the question is just get over it. Just do it anyway.
Last question. What do you think a lot of agents are doing wrong on social media today?
Boring. A lot of stuff gets recycled like over and over and over and over again. So it's like if you see a real estate agent post something and you're like, oh, that's a great video, and you make the same one, and then 1,000 other real estate agents do the same thing. It's just kind of like, I don't know, there's nothing exciting about it.
I think we jumped on like the video tours, the house video tours pretty early, like before anybody like set up our local area. We jumped on it, and then like it was a couple months later, everybody was doing it. Like you said, I think it's very common in the real estate world to follow a bunch of other realtors. You're like, what are they doing? That's what we're doing.
Really, you should only be following us and then other accounts that are not real estate for inspiration.
Yeah, 100%. Branch out a little bit. If you're following a bunch of realtors, like you said, it's just everybody's recycling through the same content. They're using the same sounds and the same things. And that's what I see a lot of the time is just realtors not being super creative. So I would say branch out. Don't be afraid to branch out. Like the previous question that you asked, add a little bit of your personal, let people get to know you through the platform. I think you'll have more success with that.
To be fair, we're probably not the greatest at answering this question because we don't see a lot of other real estate agent content.
It's true.
We're not really looking.
We don't follow. We follow.
I mean, I've seen some here and there, but yeah, we generally don't look at other people's real estate content. We're looking at like
other creators, that are comedians, basically people that are going to have content similar to ours, but not in the same niche as ours.
I love that. I also don't follow other social media gurus, very many, because for me personally, I'll see it and I'll be like, shit, I should do that too. And then I get so like distracted and frazzled and I get out of my lane, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and where can people find you?
You can find us at the North Valley Group on Instagram or TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. You'll probably find us on Google. You can come visit us in Chico.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah.